Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Wednesday, December 7th. It's just after 11 o'clock in the morning, which is an odd time for me to be recording one of these videos. And I'll kind of explain why that's happening in a minute. And if I babble on and ramble even more than normal, it's just because I'm really tired, really frustrated. I'm still dealing with a lot of cigarette smoke here at the hotel. I'll talk about that in a minute. My eyes are burning, my throat is sore. I can't really talk, and I haven't gotten a whole lot of sleep. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And yeah, a lot going on in terms of my upcoming trip. And that's mainly what I wanted to talk about, I guess, do a bit of a logistics update. Because I think I'm changing my plans a little bit, mainly because I'm running out of time. I've bitten off way more than I can chew, which tends to happen to me a lot because I make decisions too late. Like instead of having 2 months to prepare for something, I'll wait until the last minute before I decide what I'm going to do. And then I suddenly find myself with too many things to do. And then I add things that I didn't really need to add. Well, in this case, I'm going on a bike tour to Sumatra that could be a very short one, could be a month long, it could be 2 months long. I'm kind of leaving that open. Depends on the conditions and the weather and my mood and whether the bike falls apart and many things. But I think it's going to be at least a month-long trip, maybe 2 months, if I go to the Bukittinggi area and then cycle from there to Lake Toba before returning to Malaysia. And of course the idea is to go by ferry, and I've been planning to ride my bike down to Malacca and take the ferry from Malacca to a city called Dumai on Sumatra. And there I can get a visa on arrival for 30 days, and that visa can be extended one time in Sumatra for an additional 30 days. That's complicated to do and takes a lot of planning and careful planning, logistics to get that done. But it is possible. I've done it in the past, so I know it can work out. So that's the kind of the plan that I'm working with, and I have to leave Malaysia, I believe, before December 18th. But of course, you have to calculate those days very carefully. I have a 90-day social visit pass for Malaysia, and I calculate from the day I entered the country, and then I have to calculate, 90 days or 90 nights until I get to when my social visit pass expires. And you sort of have to do that yourself. That's an interesting thing about tourist visas, or in this case from Malaysia, you don't really get a tourist visa. They give you what they call a social visit pass, but it has a number of days associated with it. Visas, you get a 30-day visa or a 28-day visa or a 60-day, 90-day, whatever it is. And then you, as the visitor to that country, you have to do your own calculations as to when is the last day I can be in that country. You have to count yourself, because they stamp your passport with the day you enter, and then you have 30 days, and you count ahead to see your last day when you have to leave. But if you try and calculate it for the absolute last day, it's very easy to get it wrong. You can be off by 1 day. It's not always straightforward. So I always find myself opening up a calendar and I'm counting 90 days, 1, 2, 3, or I add up the weeks, 7 days per week, number of weeks, and I do a careful calculation, and then I calculate backwards from that day. I do the calculation like 5 different ways just to make sure I absolutely get it right. Because if you're off by 1 day, that's as bad as being off by a week or a month or something. You've overstayed your visa, and now you're not allowed to leave that country without going to immigration and paying a bunch of fines and doing a lot of paperwork, and it's a hassle. So you do not want to overstay your visa. So you're doing all these careful calculations. So I've been calculating ahead, and I think I have to leave Malaysia by December 18th. So to give myself, a day or two leeway, I'm thinking I'll take the ferry on, the 15th or the 16th or the 17th. And my idea was to get ready to leave Kuala Lumpur, get my bike ready, get my camera gear ready, get my camping gear ready in case I need that. do everything I need to do, and then leave on my bike from Kuala Lumpur, ride to Malacca. And I was going to spend 2, 3, or 4 days in Malacca being a tourist, just hanging out, going exploring, shooting YouTube videos, living my normal life, planning to get buy my ticket for the ferry when I get there, but then spend some time in Malacca, just enjoying that city. But I'm running out of time. It's really becoming tight for me. And again, I kind of did it to myself. Thinking back, for example, I left it a bit late, but I started selling all of my old camera lenses and upgrading my gear. So I upgraded from the Insta360 X2 camera to the X3 camera. And I'm very glad that I did that. However, that took up a few days just to get that deal done, to do the research, to buy the camera, and then learn how to use the camera. So right now I'm in the middle of testing and learning how to use the X3, and that takes a lot of time. I also bought a new Rode Wireless Go microphone, the Rode Wireless Go 2, which comes with 2 microphones and 1 receiver. And it turns out that learning how to use that is not as simple as just turning it on. In order to work with that, you have to use this Rode Central app that you have to download to your computer, connect the microphone to the computer to choose different settings. And it's much more complex than the regular Rode Wireless Go, because now you've got 2 microphones that can record to 2 different tracks, and one can go to your left ear and one can go to the right, or you can set it to mono, or you can do a safety channel, or you can do a backup audio, and you can set the decibel. There's a lot. It's a far more complicated microphone than the one I'm using now, the basic one. So just buying that microphone, sitting down for a day, 2 days, however long it takes, learning everything about that microphone, testing it, how to use it, that took up more of my time. And then I'm busy setting up my bike, getting it roadworthy. That is another full-time job. And the universe, in its humorous way, is constantly putting roadblocks in my path. I've joked about this in the past, but I'm only half joking. I think it's really true that the universe always knows what it is I'm trying to do. And then, like a scamp, like a jokester, like a trickster, the universe makes that one little thing I want to do very difficult, if not impossible. So as I talked about in a previous video, to set my bike up with all of my new bicycle mounts and things like that, I need a wrench for certain bolt sizes. So I go off to all the hardware stores in Kuala Lumpur. I go to all the shopping malls, all the hardware stores, the DIY stores, my local hardware stores in my neighborhood, the big ones that are in shopping malls. And the one wrench that I need is the one wrench they don't have. It just always works out that way. I needed, for example, if I need a 12 millimeter wrench, there on the display will be the 8, the 9, the 10, the 11, the 13, the 14, the 12 will be missing. And I just ran into that. I feel like I went out days in a row, and all I'm trying to do is find specific tools that I need for my bike. And at the end of an entire day of shopping, I have not found that one little tool. Every little errand seems to be difficult. So I'm running out of time from that point of view. Getting my bike set up is taking a lot of time. And I'm encountering a lot of trouble mounting my GoPro, which sounds absolutely insane. But it's true, because I have all kinds of mounts. I mean, if you saw what was around me in my room here, you couldn't believe it, because I've got this mount, I've got this mount, I've got this mount, I've got this mount, I've got this selfie stick, I've got so much gear. I've got this mount, a U-bolt mount. I've got every piece of gear that it feels like you could possibly buy for a GoPro. And yet, none of this, I repeat, none of this will fit on my handlebars. I don't know. GoPros drive me crazy in that way. There's something weird about the mounting systems with the fingers they use, the normal fingers, with the thumb screws and then the quick release bolt. The way those work together, it's just like nothing ever fits. And on my handlebars, there just isn't enough room to mount anything. There's no empty space to put anything. And it becomes more complicated because I have a handlebar bag. So I have this little handlebar bag on the front of my handlebars. And whatever mounting system I put on the bike can't interfere with the lid. So I can't just put a mount right here in front of me and have it go straight forward, because then it goes over top of the handlebar bag and I can't open it. So anything I use has to be mounted to the side and then kind of angled inwards, or, as I've been experimenting with, has to be mounted on the frame of the bike underneath the handlebar bag, and then like kind of moving upwards, or this, or doing that, or doing. And I've been working on this for days, and I'm ready to give up because I cannot figure it out. I don't know how to do it, and it's driving me crazy. Part of the problem, or the main problem for me, is that I always seem to be doing something differently from everyone else on the planet. I mean, normally you want to mount a GoPro on your bike. It's simple. You get one of these. GoPro mount. I have one. It's got a little, it fits over any tube. This fits over your handlebars, fits over the bike, the frame of the bike, whatever you want. Put it on there, and it's got a quick release buckle there, and you put your GoPro on here with the quick release, boom, you're done. But that is for a normal person that wants to film the road ahead of them. If that's all you want to do, then nothing could be easier. I can put a GoPro anywhere on these handlebars. You just put the GoPro, you put this on somewhere, and then you aim the GoPro ahead of the bike and you're filming the road ahead of you. That is easy. But what I want to do, of course, is I need to film myself. I need to point the camera forward. I also want to be able to point the camera to the side, but mainly I want to be able to put the camera at the end of some kind of a selfie stick ahead of me so that it is pointing back towards me. That is the problem, because that introduces all kinds of complexities. If all I want to do is put the GoPro on the handlebars, pointing forward, done. I can do that in 2 minutes. But I want to have it mounted ahead of me within arm's length that I can still touch the controls and have it pointing back towards me. And then it can't be, bouncing up and down like crazy. It can bounce a little bit because of the stabilization in the GoPro, but you can't have it like flying all over the place. So the mount has to be relatively rigid and solid. And that is extremely complicated to do. I really like my Jaws Flex clamp, which I've used with a scooter in the past. But the problem with this is that it's not high enough. And if you mount things on top of here to make it high enough, every time you go over a bump, it just bends over because it's not tight enough. It's not stable enough. So then I try to mount this somewhere, and then I try and get a piece of rope or a cord or a zip tie and attach this to something to hold it in place. So I've got the base locked in, then I got the top locked in, and then I can have something else on top of that. But by the time you do all of that, it takes a long time to set up. And then when you park the bike and you want to go in somewhere and bring your camera with you, you have to dismantle this rig that you've set up, and it takes a long time. So that becomes very, very complicated. And I've made my life even more complicated because I want to be able to mount a GoPro and a 360 camera. And I want to be able to switch back and forth from one to the other. And once I've combined all of these problems with the way my bicycle is set up, I've been working on it for days, and I still have not come up with a way to do it. As I said, I feel like I have every GoPro mount that is on the market, but I can't do it. I do not have the gear that I can assemble in such a way as to just put a GoPro on my bicycle. I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, I'll get it figured out eventually. I'll come up with some kind of a solution. It won't be a great one. I might have to go out shopping again. I was online looking for other adapters that I can buy that might help me out. There might be something some third-party company makes. Maybe I can figure something out, but I'm running out of time. Like, I just don't have another week to be out shopping, looking for more adapters and trying to do it. It's too late. I've left it too late. So that is what has been going on. Though well, another quick story. To be honest, the reason I'm recording this right now is because I'm feeling a little bit frustrated and I needed to vent a little bit. It's either record this video or get online and start sending messages to all my friends around the world and just sort of ranting at them, like telling them all my little stories. And they're all getting all these messages like, oh boy, Doug's losing his mind again. And I thought instead of tormenting all these people, I will just tell my story on video and get it out of the way in one fell swoop. And I don't have to bother all these poor people. The thing is that my task for this morning that I set myself was to do laundry. And I desperately need to do laundry. And so I was going to do laundry, and there's a laundromat right around the corner here. And I checked it out beforehand, and there's an issue with this laundromat, which leads into my problem. And laundromats, you know, are really sad places, and I really didn't want to go to this laundromat. It's right here in Chinatown, and it's just a sad, sad place. It's like where despair goes to kill itself. I mean, it's just it just has that look, you know, that laundromat look. They're such sad places. And in the past, I would actually get on the MRT and I would ride all the way out to Taman Bahagia station, which is like, I don't know, an hour away, 40 minutes away by MRT, and then go for a long walk through that neighborhood, crossing a major highway system just to get to a laundromat that I liked over there. I don't know, it was just a nice one. It was an open air, cheerful laundromat, clean and fresh. And it wasn't busy ever. They had everything worked, you know, all the machines worked, everything was perfect. And in that neighborhood, there was a bicycle store, camping store, and a hardware store. So I would combine all my errand runs. I'd head out to Taman Bahagia, go for a long walk, do my laundry there. Nice, beautiful place. And then I would visit the camping store, visit the bike store, visit the hardware store, and run all my errands. And there's all these other shops there as well. So I would go an hour away just to go to a nice laundromat, because a sad, lonely, horrible laundromat is such a horrible place to hang out in. And this one here in Chinatown is exactly like that. It's a very sad place. And the times I've walked by it, there were some crazy people in there. You could tell, like it's kind of open. It's a room, you know, you go into this dank sort of underground space, but it has an opening to the street. And if kind of a person with mental issues happens to be wandering by and they need a place to sit down, they'll just sort of duck into the laundromat and sit on one of the benches in there. And I've seen them in there from time to time. They start screaming at people and yelling at people and causing trouble, and I don't know. It's just not my favorite laundromat. However, it's right here. It's right around the corner. And as I said, I'm running out of time. So I thought, okay, let's not worry about going to the other side of the world to find the perfect laundromat. Let's just go there. The machines seem to work. I'll just get it done quick this morning and I'll be done. So I go to the laundromat and I go in there, and it's one of these, like laundromats, you also have to do a bit of research to figure out how to use them, because you have to figure out how much they cost, how much the washer costs, different sizes, you know, the 6 kilogram machine, the 9, the 12, you know, all the different sizes, they have different prices. And then how do you put money in? Like, do you put coins in? Does it take bills? If it only takes coins, do they have a change machine? How do you get change? And this one uses tokens, as far as I could make out. So you had to figure out, well, how many tokens do I need? Because it tells you how much it costs in ringgit to do a load. Like it costs, I think, 6 ringgit per load of laundry. But you have to pay in tokens. So you have to, you know, read all the signs and figure out, okay, how many tokens is the equivalent of 6 ringgit? And how do I buy the tokens? Where are they? And I go into this place, and they have 2 machines. On this wall, there is a token changer. It says token changer. You put money in, you get tokens. I'd never done it before. I've never been to this place. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they're talking about. But I was like, okay, machines take tokens. This machine dispenses tokens. All right, I got that straightened out. But on the other wall, there's a coin changer. It says coin changer. And you put money in there and you get coins. So now I'm thinking, all right, well, what's going on here? Like, what do I need for these washing machines and these dryers? Do I need coins or do I need tokens? And when I was there before and I asked people that were there, it's like, I'm confused about this. Token changer, coin changer, you know, which one do I need? How do these machines work? And people talked at me for a long time and pointed at a bunch of things. I couldn't understand a word they were saying. And at that time, I just left. This time I went back again thinking, okay, I'll figure it out when I get there. And there was a couple of other foreigners there and I spoke to them. We were kind of joking, sharing, you know, laundromat stories because they clearly had no idea what to do either. I saw this woman going up to the token changer and she's reading it and trying to figure out. I asked her, like, do you know what's going on here? How this works? And she says, no, I've never been here before. I'm trying to figure it out. So we put our heads together and we're trying to figure all this out. And she put some money into the token changer and it spit out a whole bunch of heavy metal coins that were the tokens for this place. And yeah, it was like being in Las Vegas, you know, and the machines, you know, they tinkle and they make this loud. You feel like you've won the jackpot with all these tokens, you know, dropping down into the slot. And I thought, okay, they take tokens, this gives tokens. Let's not worry about the coin changer because I don't know what that's for. I'll just get tokens. So I go up to the machine to get tokens, but it turns out it won't accept 20 ringgit bills. It only accepts 5s, 10s, and 1s. And I didn't have enough of those. I had a couple 1s and a 5 and a 10. I had a variety of notes, but I intended to use a 20 ringgit note because I had a bunch of those. But that machine, the token changer, won't accept 20 ringgit notes. I didn't realize that until I put it in and it spit it back out again. I says, oh, come on. And I smooth it out, make sure it's nice and dry, has no wrinkles in it, put it back in, keep spitting it out. And then I noticed that on the machine, written in magic marker, was, you know, it only takes 10s. That's the maximum. It won't accept 20s. So I thought, oh, so I can't even use this machine. And by then another man had come in. I don't know what country he was from. But he saw me kind of looking at the coin changer. And I was asking this woman, like, do you know the difference? Like, can I use coins if I can't get tokens? Can I use coins in the laundry? Like, do they take both? And this man told me, he says, no, that machine also gives you tokens. It says coin changer, but it's not a coin changer. It is also a token changer. It's just that nobody had bothered to put the proper sign on it. So one says token changer, one says coin changer, but they are both token changers. They don't issue coins, they issue tokens. That's what this guy was telling me. And this other machine does accept 20 ringgit notes. So I thought, okay, good to go. Let's take a chance on this. So I go up to the second machine, I put in my 20 ringgit note, and I win the jackpot. I can tell instantly they're tokens coming out, not coins. So I thought, yes, okay, I finally got this place figured out. Tokens, tokens, tokens. The whole place runs on tokens. So I wait until I win my jackpot, and I got a lot of tokens. I have them here, in fact. I got like, it's like I'm a wealthy man here. I've got so many tokens. Why do I have tokens here in my hotel room? So I got all of my tokens. I'm ready to go. By then I turn around and I had taken so long to figure out this token business that people had gotten ahead of me and filled up all the machines. All the machines were being used by that point. There were no washing machines available. So I finally had my tokens. I had all my clothing in a bag. I had my laundry soap. I finally had all of my tokens, and there were no available machines. And these laundromats are sad enough when you're sitting there waiting for your laundry to finish. I did not want to be sitting there just waiting for a machine to become available. So I had no choice but just to turn around and leave. And to be honest, by that point, I was just going to hop on the MRT and go to Taman Bahagia, and I was going to go to my other laundromat. But now I've got 20 ringgit worth of tokens, for this laundromat. I'm kind of stuck going to this place. Plus, I was looking at Google Maps, and the laundromat that I used to go to all the time, it doesn't seem to be there anymore. I can't figure out whether it's still there or not. I go down to street level and try to look at a picture, and I can't find it. And then if you just sort of look at the normal Google Maps view, that laundromat, I think it used to be listed as a business there. It's not there anymore, at least listed. So I'm not 100% sure that laundromat even exists anymore. So anyway, I turned around and just came right back here to my hotel. And the one thing I wanted to do this morning, my one errand, the one thing on my to-do list, to do laundry, so far I'm not able to do it. So I'm gonna have to go back there and just keep going back basically until some machines are available. And who knows how long that's going to take. So that is what the universe had in store for me today, when all I wanted to do was wash my clothing, all of which is severely in need of washing. That whole laundry story, by the way, explains why I'm wearing this shirt, because this is one of my very old shirts. There's almost nothing left of it. It's almost like wearing a Kleenex. The material is so thin. There's almost nothing there anymore. Because I wore this shirt a lot when I was in Sumatra last time. And I think it was my main shirt that I wore almost all the time when I was cycling. So it just kind of got worn very, very thin. And then the sun on it, really wears out the material. So it's not a shirt that I wear very often. But in my case, and I've often been in this situation where when I do laundry, I'm basically washing all of my clothes at once, because I don't have any extra clothes. I don't have a wardrobe. So it's not like I have a vast wardrobe of clothing and I only wear certain parts of it and then I wash those items. No, I wear all of my clothes all the time. So when it's time to do laundry, it's always a little bit of a struggle, because you basically have to wash all of the clothes you own at the same time, which leaves you with nothing that you can wear while you're doing laundry. And in a way, I think that feeds into why laundromats are such sad places, because a lot of the people that are in there are kind of in my situation as well. And they're basically wearing their oldest, dirtiest, most torn, rags that they own, because all their good clothing, the clothing they actually wear, is being washed, and they don't have anything else to wear while it's being, washed. So they basically have to set aside some old piece of junk clothing, the dirtiest, oldest clothing they have. That's the clothing that they would wear to the laundromat while they're actually washing their real clothes, right? It's just such a crazy thing. And then when I'm doing laundry, it's like my whole life comes to a stop, because I'm often staying in places where, I use my own bed sheets and I use my own towels, everything like that. I wash everything all at once. And in the time that I'm doing laundry and then drying it, I don't have anything. I don't have clothes to wear. I don't have sheets to sleep in. I don't have towels to dry myself. I don't, like, my entire life is inside the washing machine. And, in this case, I have a little bit of extra clothing here, and I have my old orange shirt. So I put that on when I went down to the laundromat. And I bought a brand new pair of pants, which in my judgment didn't need to be washed yet. These are these green pants that I've been wearing last few days. I've been wearing these green pants. And that's another thing that has taken up more of my time than I expected, because all of my clothing was worn out. The clothing that I was wearing in Mae Sot in Thailand, most of it was completely worn out. I had no long pants left at all. I didn't have a single pair of long pants. And while I was in Mae Sot, I went to this secondhand clothing store, which got a lot of Western imports, like Goodwill type clothing. And I spent a good part of a day there just rummaging through all the piles. And I came out with one pair of long pants, kind of Dockers, I think they were not real Dockers. They were like imitation knockoff Dockers, just khaki pants. and they fit me because they were Western imports from Goodwill, you know, in the United States or Canada, wherever. So I bought that pair of pants, and that's what I've been wearing the entire time, all the way from Thailand, in Penang, and all the way to Kuala Lumpur, because I had no other pants to wear. And they were actually quite thick and heavy, so they were kind of too hot to be wearing all the time, but I wore them all the time anyway. They were the only pants I could find, you know, when I was in Thailand. So I had those pants, and I can't wear them to Sumatra. I certainly can't wear them cycling. They're too big, they're too heavy, they're too hot. So I did need to buy new pants. And the other day when I was searching for sandals, which I still haven't found, by the way, I went out the other day looking for just Teva sandals, because I've seen them in stores here in the past, and I thought surely I can just find a basic pair of, you know, Teva sandals, and they will do me fine. And I went out the other day, and I swear I went to 18 billion shopping malls, and I did Google Maps searches looking for anyone that might sell Teva sandals, and I went to all these places. I spent the entire day looking, and I never found a single pair anywhere in all of Kuala Lumpur, and I went everywhere. How it is I can never find anything, I can't tell you. Other people don't seem to have this trouble. But yeah, I went everywhere, all kinds of shopping malls, all kinds of shoe stores everywhere, and sports stores, sports outlets, anywhere, and couldn't find them. I know they're out there. I know they are available in Kuala Lumpur, but for whatever reason, I couldn't track them down. Anyway, I was at a Sport Direct, or some kind of, yeah, it was a Sport Direct, because I wanted to take a second look at the sandals that they sell. I was there before, and they didn't have any sandals that fit my feet, so I didn't buy anything there, but I thought this was a new Sport Direct at Mid-Valley, the Mega Mall there. So I went to the Sport Direct at Mega Mall looking for sandals, and on my way out the door, I just happened to spot a rack of sale items, like you know those racks where they might have a set of clothing and then they put that clothing on sale and they get down to the one or two items, like the one item that they haven't managed to sell for years, and they bundle all those things together, throw them on a rack and make a super sale out of them. Like nobody wants this crap, and here it is at a really cheap price. So I was looking at it, and I got lucky because a lot of these items that don't sell, they don't sell because they are too big for the local market. So this pair of green pants that I'm wearing, I don't even know what the brand is. Is that a brand? DM? These are like extra large. You know, they're like the ultimate large pair that they couldn't sell in the local market. And they're even a little bit big on me around the waist. They don't quite fit, but they fit well enough. And for the price, I thought, okay. You know, I actually went into the changing room, put them on, and thought, okay, they're acceptable. And I just walked out. I bought them. So I do have these pair of pants. So these will get me through Sumatra. So that's kind of cool. And I had one other pair of pants in storage here in Kuala Lumpur. But I also didn't have any kind of swimming trunks. I had like no shorts at all. Yeah, these are like the zip-off pants. You can zip them off, so I can wear these while I'm cycling as well. I'll just turn them into shorts. That's how I hope to use them, actually. I bought them mainly as cycling shorts, not as walking around shorts or like long pants. But anyway, so these are going to be my cycling shorts. But I also need just a pair of gym shorts, you know, comfortable lounging around shorts. And I usually buy swimming trunks for that, because you also need swimming trunks from time to time. And I didn't have a pair of those anymore either. And so I've been shopping for that. So I've been shopping for sandals, shopping for long pants, shopping for shorts, shopping for bathing trunks, and all of that has also taken up a lot of my time, a lot more than I expected. So, yeah, all of that, everything I've been talking about has led up to what I really wanted to talk about, which is how I'm running out of time. And I think I have to change my plans, because my original plan was to ride to Malacca, be a tourist in Malacca for a few days, then get on the ferry to Dumai. And I contacted the Indo-Mall Fast Ferry Company. I tracked down a WhatsApp number for them, and it's a real, effective, valid number, which amazed me. Because on their websites and all the Facebook pages and everything, I found all these phone numbers associated with this ferry company, but none of them worked and none of them would get me anywhere. But I tried one after another, until I finally got hold of someone on the phone, and that person gave me a phone number that said this is their WhatsApp number and I can use it to book a ticket. So I used that WhatsApp number and I sent them a question, because their ferry schedule is really difficult to figure out for me, because they keep changing it. Like they had the elections here in Malaysia and they posted, okay, this is our election schedule. But I don't know how long, when does the election schedule expire and they go back to their regular schedule? It doesn't say. So looking at all these different schedules, and the website didn't work, I couldn't really be confident that I knew when the ferries were running or even if they were running. It was complicated. So I got the WhatsApp number and I sent them a message telling them my story. I want to go from Malacca to Dumai on either December 15th, 16th, or 17th. And what is the schedule for those days? How much does it cost? How do I buy a ticket, basically? And to my delight, they wrote back to me. I got a very detailed set of messages from them. One of them was a picture of their schedule, which apparently is the new up-to-date schedule, though it's all in Indonesian as far as I can tell. So I don't even recognize the days of the week. I'm going to have to do a Google Translate on that. Senin, Selasa, Rabu, Kamis, Jumat, Sabtu, and Minggu. I don't know if that's Indonesian or Malaysian, to be honest, but it doesn't feel like Malaysian to me. So I think that this is all in Indonesian. But it does give me the times for various ferries. On one day, there's like one ferry at 2:30 in the afternoon. On another day, there's one ferry at 10 in the morning and another at 2:30 in the afternoon. So they sent me the schedule, and I got a whole bunch of voice messages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Look at that. There's 6 voice messages where this very helpful, friendly woman broke down everything for me as well as she could about when the ferries are running, told me about the schedule. And then she talked about something that confused the heck out of me. She talked about how, I need a visa for Indonesia. I know that. But she was talking about that and was telling me how much it costs. But according to her messages, I have to pay them for the visa, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's a visa on arrival. So I thought you arrive in Dumai, get off the boat. They've done their job. They've delivered you to the port. After that, and now it's up to you to go through immigration, and then you have to either present your visa or go to the visa on arrival counter and apply for one and pay for it. That's how it normally works. But in her messages, she was telling me the prices in Indonesian rupiah, Malaysian ringgit, US dollars, how much the visa costs, and then I have to pay her. I have to pay them at their counter. That doesn't make any sense to me, but anyway, I'll figure that out. But in going through all these messages and all this information, I was looking at the schedule again, and then I realized I still have the Port Dickson option, because they have ferries that run from Malacca to Dumai, but they also have ferries that run from Port Dickson to Dumai. So I was thinking, since I'm running out of time, I could use a few extra days to get organized before I go. I think I might abandon my plan to be a tourist in Malacca. I can do that when I come back from Sumatra. So I think I'll not do that anymore. I'll just concentrate on getting ready getting on the boat and going to Sumatra, and I'm not going to worry about new experiences in Malaysia. I just don't have time for it. And I was thinking, well, if I'm going to do that, I don't even need to go to Malacca anymore, because one of the reasons I was going to go there is because it's one of the biggest attractions in Malaysia. I've been to Malacca before, a long time ago, but I thought, well, you know, I can combine this with a trip to Malacca. And that was the main reason I was going to go down there. But if I don't need to go to Malacca, then why not just go to Port Dickson, which is much closer to Kuala Lumpur? Yeah, it's not that far away. I could ride my bike to Port Dickson in one day and just be there. And that can free up 4 or 5, or I haven't looked at the calendar yet. So that could free up enough days that I can relax a little bit, because I'm freaking out. I have so many things to do, and everything is so difficult. I don't know, I'm running into so many problems everywhere that I just need more time to get ready. And maybe this will be the solution. I could either keep going to Malacca as I planned, but then not spend any days in Malacca, or I can just go directly to Port Dickson. And the other thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, and I have a plan for dealing with it, but I'm not sure if it is the right plan or not. This is always a situation I run into, is that these ferries are designed for people. They're people ferries. They're not vehicle ferries. And I'm going to be showing up with quite a large, complicated bicycle. Not just a bicycle, but a bicycle and a trailer. And can they put my bicycle on that boat? I'm going on the assumption that they can, because I've done it in the past. I've gone back and forth to Sumatra by ferry many times, actually, out of Port Klang. And I've taken my bicycle on that ferry. And each time, it wasn't an issue. I just had to pay extra for the bike. And then I remember when I went to Sumatra, I handed it over as luggage. I basically took my bags off the bike, and then I gave them the bike, and they rolled it away, and they put it on the boat somewhere. And I remember when I did that one time, there was even a guy there with a motorcycle. He was doing like an around the world tour on a motorcycle. And he showed up in Port Klang with like a full-size motorbike, an Itchy Boots style motorbike with, you know, pannier bags on it. And he says, yeah, can I put my motorbike on your ferry? And again, it was a passenger ferry, and they did it for him. They found a space, how they did it, and they get, you know, 6, 7, or 8 guys. You know, the luggage guys would come over and they all pick up the motorbike and carry it across that narrow gangplank to get it on the ferry, and they jammed it into some space over there. And yeah, he went across with his motorbike. So I've been able to do it in the past, but there's a certain amount of tension involved in that, where you just ride your bike up to the dock, buy your ticket to the ferry, and then you roll your bike up to the boat, and then you're just hoping that they'll take it. Right? You're taking a chance. They could say, no, we can't, we have no space on our boat for that. It's not a vehicle ferry. So you would think the logical thing to do is ask for permission in advance. But there is that theory, that principle, and I find it is a very true one, that it is often better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Because my experience around the world and in my life in general is that if you just show up with your bike, they'll deal with it. They'll find a way to put it on the boat or the train or the bus. But if you ask them in advance, like if I talk to them and say, oh, by the way, I have a touring bicycle, can I take that on the boat? Chances are they will say no. That's kind of the instinct of these sorts of companies. They'll do it in person when it's sort of a done deal. There's nothing they can do about it. You know, you bought your ticket, you're there, there's the bike, and they can see that, okay, we can pick it up and just put it here. You know, it'll be fine right there. In the actual moment, it can be done. But sometimes if you ask in advance, the other person gets gets weirded out, and they don't really know what you're talking about. Because sometimes even the words bicycle and motorcycle and scooter all get mixed up, and they'll often think I'm asking about a motorcycle, because even the idea of like, why would a foreigner be taking a bicycle to Sumatra doesn't make any sense. But maybe taking a motorcycle makes sense to them, and they'll just say no because they think I'm asking about a big heavy motorcycle. So my plan at this point is just not to mention it. I'm just going to go there on faith and hope, crossing my fingers, just sort of hope that it works out. A bike, you know, it's not that big a deal. You can find room on it. I remember one boat I was on. Yeah, it's a bit of a touchy situation, because on this boat that I was thinking of, they took it. This was coming back. This was in the Philippines, actually. I put it on a number of boats in the Philippines. And this boat was not designed for this kind of luggage at all. And what they did was they just grabbed my bike and they put it on the front of the boat. There was sort of a flat area, but there was a sealed boat, almost like a jet airplane. But they put my bike on the outside of the boat on this sort of flat area and just sort of roped it down out there. And this all happened so fast, you know, before I even knew it was happening. And then when we got out into the open ocean, it was a bad day, rough day. One of those days where everyone on the boat was vomiting except me, but all the local people were just throwing up like crazy because everybody got seasick, really rough seas, and heavy waves were like crashing over the boat. And my bike just got soaked in seawater, which is very bad for a bicycle. You do not want it soaking in seawater for hours. It does a lot of damage, but you know, given a choice, I would not have put my bike at the front of the boat like that, but at least they did take it. But yeah, weird things can happen on these boats, but sometimes just showing up and praying, you know, just showing up on faith that, you know, they will find a place for your bike is often the best way to go. If you ask in advance, chances are you'll get an answer that you don't like. But I don't know whether that's the right choice or not. Anyway, that is, I think, my new plan. I'm not going to be a tourist in Malacca, so I'm going to take those days and devote them to preparation time. I need a couple extra days at a minimum to get ready here in Kuala Lumpur. That's just the way things are turning out. So yeah, I was going to leave on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. I was going to leave on Sunday, but now I'm going to leave later. I don't know, depending on whether I leave from Port Dickson or from Malacca and how I organize that. I sent them another message on WhatsApp asking about Port Dickson, because unfortunately, my first question was all about leaving from Malacca, and all the information that she gave me was all based on this idea that I'm leaving from Malacca, and I'm not entirely sure how much of that applies to Port Dickson. Or maybe the boats are different sizes. I mean, if Port Dickson or Malacca has the bigger boat, I'll go to the port that runs the larger boat that is more likely to be able to carry large luggage, you know, like a bicycle. So I've got some more things to figure out there. I sent them another question about Port Dickson, and they haven't replied yet, so I'm waiting for that reply. I feel bad now that I'm hitting them with another question, because they were so helpful with my first one about Malacca, but now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll be leaving from Port Dickson. How about that? You know, more questions, and they're like, this guy make up his mind already. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking about now, and with that in mind, and after getting all this off my chest, I can feel myself relaxing a little bit. I was a little bit flustered this morning. I needed to talk this out, get it out of my system. And I think today now is going to be devoted to getting my laundry done. I've already started. All my clothing is still in a bag over there by the door. I've got all my Las Vegas tokens here ready to go. So I'm all ready to do that. I'll just keep going back to the laundromat until there's some machines available, and I'll do my laundry. I'll get that done today, and I'll continue with planning, getting information about the ferries and scheduling my new departure date from Kuala Lumpur, getting that organized. And I'm going to fiddle around with my bike a bit more today to see if I feel like I'm missing something very obvious, and that's entirely possible because my brain gets so flustered when it comes to mounting these cameras now that sometimes there's a very simple solution staring me right in the face and I don't see it. It's like, oh, that attaches to that, and that can go, you know, there might be something like that. I could have a eureka moment, but so far I don't see any kind of a eureka possibility. It's crazy complicated. And the other thing is the 360 camera is also very complicated because the normal thing to do and the way it's set up, which in a way is quite convenient, is you have this, which has a tripod thread on the top, and then the Insta360 selfie stick has a tripod thread on the bottom, and you screw that into there, and then you mount that on your bike, and you're done. But in my experience, using this, once you extend it, and you have your camera out 3 or 4 feet, or whatever it is, 5 feet, this mounting point is not strong enough. It's not enough. It's going to snap, it's going to break, it's too wobbly, puts way too much pressure on the base. Like you can see, even this is a very strong mount, but it'll move. It doesn't work. And if you look online and you look at people with motorcycles who are mounting 360 cameras, the solution they've all come up with on their own is to use 2 mounting points. So you basically have to mount the bottom like this, but then you have to have a separate mount partway up the pole. So you have 2 mounting points, one here and one here, and then that's a nice solid attachment. And that's what I'm trying to work out on my bike, but it is very complicated. Again, because I'm trying to do something that most people wouldn't do. For example, like this, for example, even this doesn't really work because this has a GoPro quick release buckle on the bottom, which is fine if you're doing this. If your camera is just going straight up, that quick release buckle works just fine. But if you have everything on an angle stretched out like that, this isn't strong enough. You put this into a GoPro quick release buckle base, it's not designed for that. It's going to snap right off. It's going to come right out of there. It's not designed for that. It'll hold a GoPro right here that way, but it will not hold this long pole with a GoPro at the end of it. It's too much weight, and that quick release buckle is just going to snap right out of there. So you can't do that. And then the solution to that is something like this, which is like a giant clamp. You got this is the Insta360 motorcycle bundle, and it has a heavy duty clamp on the bottom. So this is awesome. You can clamp this onto anything on the bike, and that is as strong as you're going to ever get. That's very, very strong. The problem is, up at the top, there's a GoPro mount. And that's not what I want. What I need, and which apparently very few people in the world need, I need a clamp at the bottom and a clamp at the top. I need 2 clamps. One clamp to hold onto the bike, and another clamp to hold onto the pole. So I need a clamp with a clamp. But the motorcycle bundle doesn't come with that. It comes with a clamp and a GoPro mount at the top, like GoPro finger mount. And my solution to that is this weird square thing that I have up there. That is actually a grip for the DJI Pocket 2 camera. And what I'm going to do is just use it to put the pole through that and use it to hold it in place. So I have this clamped on the bike, and then I have this going around the pole, and I'm going to put electrical tape here to make it thicker so it holds it in place. And the secret to this design is that this doesn't have to hold the pole. It doesn't have to grip it, because the bottom is what's gripping it. This is just holding it vertically, like this way, just so it doesn't go up and down. It's not holding it this way. So it's locked into place on the base, and this is just holding it like that. So that will work. But that's, with the gear I have now, that's my only option. But it gets very, very complicated. I looked online, and they do make exactly what I was describing. You can see these things that have a clamp on the bottom and a clamp on the top. They do exist, but they're all made by third-party companies. And I was going to order one, but I ran out of time. You can only get them from China, and then they have to ship them from China, and it wouldn't get here on time. And you can't buy anything like that in the stores here. So I'm going to fiddle around a little bit more with that today. Laundry, ferry schedule, fiddle with the bike, and that's all I'm going to do today. And with that, maybe I can relax a little bit more. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that my eyes were burning and my throat was sore. And that's because of what I was talking about before, that some new people have moved into the hotel. And we've got a little bit of a situation here with behavior between different cultures, you know. I don't really know who these guys are, but there's a bunch of them in all the rooms up here on my floor. And I don't know where they're from. I think they're from Bangladesh or Pakistan, or they're from somewhere. And they're the type of group, I come across them quite often, where there's a whole bunch of them staying in one room. So you might get 4 or 5 people staying in one room. You know, they put in extra cots, extra beds, and they put in as many people as the hotel will allow. And then there's like this room full of people, this room full, they're all young men. I say people, but they're actually just young. I assume they're here looking for work or about to start a job here or something like that. And to save money, they got a whole bunch of them jammed into each room. So there's a whole bunch of rooms occupied with these guys. And because of that, it's like just a giant party, right? Me being one guy, I come into my room, I close the door, I'm in my room. But what they do is they leave the door open to all their rooms because there's so many of them, and then they all just spill out into the hallway. So they're all basically living in the hallway, and they're heavy, heavy smokers. All of them are smoking, just smoking all the time. And all the cigarette smoke just gets into the room here, and it's just, I'm really having a strong reaction to it. My throat is so sore. I talked about that in the other video as well, that one person smoking, even in the room with me, doesn't bother me for some reason, but just smoke coming under the door, like seeping in, it's like a smaller amount of smoke, and yet that smaller amount of smoke like sparks like this major allergic reaction in my whole body. I don't know why that is. My eyes burn, my throat burns, I can't sleep. It's just and of course, talking about cultural differences, I'm a very quiet person. I'm very aware of my surroundings and not making noise. You know, I close doors behind me quietly. I make sure everything is quiet. But in most countries around the world, I find people slam doors. That's what they do. They just slam doors, and nobody seems to worry about it. It's just what happens in that country, whatever country it is. People don't mind it if you slam doors, and everyone just grew up slamming doors behind them. So all these guys just slam. Every time they go in and out, slam that door, and like bombs going off. And the door, the stairway to the roof is right beside my room. Like my door is here. The door, sort of like one of those heavy metal emergency exit doors, you know, in case there's a fire, that door can, you know, block the fire from getting through. It's like a fire door, a very heavy one. And that's your access to the stairs to get to the roof. And all these young guys are out there just having fun. They're hanging out with their friends on a big life adventure. So they're spending a lot of time up on the roof, smoking and talking and hanging out, which means they go up and down all night long. And every time they go through that emergency door, they just let go. Bang! You know, it's like shakes the whole building. Because that's a heavy door and it slams. And they're up there till, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. I don't know what these guys are doing. They seem to become very active at midnight. Like midnight, they wake up, and suddenly from midnight till 3 is their party time. So all of that on top of all of this that I've been talking about. Yeah, I need a couple of extra days before I'm ready to leave from Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, well, I guess those are my stories for right now. That's all that's going on. And I'm going to, yeah, I guess I'm going to go back to the laundromat. Might be long enough. Maybe there might be some machines open. I don't think I'll be able to concentrate on anything else until I get my laundry done. Once my laundry is done, then I can that's done. Now I can move on to something else. So that's my next task. Go do my laundry. Got all my tokens. Wish me luck. I'm back, and I'm back just because laundry is done, kind of done, and I just wanted to add a little bit of a postscript, a conclusion to my behind-the-scenes adventures for today. Yeah, I mean, I got the laundry done. I had to go back to the same laundromat because I had all of the tokens already. I'd already paid for the loads of laundry and drying, so I figured I might as well use them. And I did go back, and there were a couple of machines available. It was still quite crowded. It's a very strategic place for a laundromat, I think, right there in Chinatown. As I said, a lot of budget hotels in the area. You get a lot of backpackers, a lot of travelers, and they're hitting that laundromat. I think a lot of migrant workers are there as well, just based on looking at all the people that were there. Anyway, it's a very popular laundromat, a very busy place. But I did manage to find a couple of empty machines, but it was a very unpleasant experience. I would never go back there. I'll never go back there again. The biggest problem, I see this in so many laundromats. Maybe I just don't understand what it takes to get clothing clean, or my expectations are too high, but there's no water in the wash cycle, or the rinse cycle for that matter. There's no water in these machines, and I see that over and over again. I saw it all over the place in Masod. I went to laundromat after laundromat after laundromat looking for a place where the machines would fill up with water. Like, give me a big soapy, sudsy mess. I want to see that drum spinning with water sloshing around. I want to get a sense that my clothing is being cleaned. But in this laundromat, it's like the front loading machines. I put in all my clothes. I put the soap in the drawer. And then, to begin with, this stupid thing would not accept my tokens. It's got, in one of those complicated, there's 2 slots, and you have to figure out, okay, which slot is for which machine, because there's one machine above, one below. And you don't want to put all your money or all your tokens in the wrong one. So you're looking at, okay, which one goes with which machine? And after all the other research you have to do to figure this place out, how to buy tokens, how much you have to buy, where, all this, and now you have to figure out which one of these slots you have to use. And it does have a word on it saying, upper and lower, and you better make sure you're putting your coins in the wrong one. It's a very poor design. You go into these places and it's never quite clear which money slot goes with which machine. It should be more intuitive than that. It shouldn't even be an issue, but it always is an issue. You have to figure that out, and I'm putting my tokens in, and they just pop out the bottom. Just like you put them in, they all just get rejected. Then I put one in, and it doesn't get rejected, but nothing happens. Like, I don't hear any clicking sound, I don't hear it fall into a container, nothing changes on the screen, so I'm like, okay, now what? So I put in another one, and it slides in, and nothing happens. I'm like, okay, now what's going on here? Put in a third one, and now the coins obviously are stuck. They're all backed up, and my third token that I put in is sticking out the front because it's hitting the other ones. I'm thinking, oh, for Pete's sake. Now I've jammed the machine. But then I managed to push the button, the coin returned, and all 3 of the tokens were released, came down to the bottom, and I can start all over again. And I'm putting coins in, well, not coins, tokens, and they're all being rejected. Finally, one of them gets accepted, right? And I'm sort of muttering under my breath. I'm muttering curses under my breath at this stupid machine, trying to get it to work. And I'm thinking I'd like to switch to a new machine, but I've already not only put all my clothes into it, I've already added the soap into the drawer. So it's like, I'm kind of committed to this machine anyway, so I keep trying. It takes me a long time, but I finally get it to accept all of my tokens. But then it's not clear what you're supposed to do next. You get all these flashing lights for all the different temperatures, and it says on the sign, after you put in your tokens, then you select your temperature, and then you press play or start or pause. There's a start pause button at the bottom. So I read through the instructions and I thought I knew what to do. So I'm clicking on the temperature button and it's not responding. Nothing is happening. I'm like pushing, pushing, pushing. Nothing is happening, nothing is happening. I'm pushing, pushing, pushing. Nothing's happening, so I figure, okay, maybe I don't have to select the temperature, and then I go down to the start button. I push on the start button. Nothing happens. Push it again, push it again, push it again. I'm muttering louder. I'm like cursing under my breath. I'm ready to just turn around, take my clothes, and just walk out of this place. After all the other problems, now the machines are clearly not working. Half of them are broken. But anyway, I was there, I was committed. And then a man standing beside me, he heard me cursing and muttering under my breath. And he turns to me and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you out? Is there a problem?" And he was just another customer, very nice guy from Indonesia, as I found out, from the island of Sulawesi. And he was here in Malaysia on holiday. And he had just finished, doing his laundry in the same place. And I guess he had no trouble. So he was going to offer me his expertise. And I kind of felt embarrassed that I was cursing under my breath. But anyway, I turned to him and I says, "Yeah, I can't figure out how to turn this machine on. I'm pushing all these buttons and nothing is happening." And he says, "Well, I used those machines and they worked. So, just keep pushing buttons and hopefully something will happen." So I went down to the start button, and instead of, just pushing it this time, I held it in. And I just held it in and held it in and held it in and held it in. And it still wasn't responding, so I let it go. And then I pushed it one more time, and then the machine clicked into action and it started to work, finally. And then I'm standing there watching the machine, and it is going around. It's turning, and my clothing is flopping around inside the drum. And I'm waiting for the water to flow. And just like no water comes out. 1 minute goes by, 2 minutes go by, the machine is going around and around, my clothing is flopping a little bit, it's all perfectly dry, nothing is going on, the time is winding down, and no water is being added to this whole system. So I'm standing there and I'm just so annoyed. It's like, okay, now we've got machines with no water, and I'm gonna have to start all over again with another machine or go to another laundromat. But then I spoke to some other people that were there, and I asked them, it's like, "Oh, have you done loads of laundry in here? Do you come here often," sort of thing? And these people said, "No, this is my first time here." And I says, "Well, I'm using these machines and no water is entering either machine. I had 2 of them running by now, and there wasn't water going into either one of them." And I asked the guy, "Did that happen to you?" And he says, I don't know. He said, "I didn't pay attention, but I washed my clothes here and now I'm drying them, so I guess it worked." But again, I'm looking for water. I want water, and I want these, a front-loading machine. I want to see water up at least a third of the way, if not half of the way, so you can see the water level. And then as it spins around, I want to see, some action happening here. I want to see some soap suds. And eventually, after a long time, a little trickle of water came down the front of the door. Just a little bit of water was coming down the door. And then my clothing eventually looked like it got a little bit damp, maybe, just a little bit damp, and it kind of went through its wash cycle. And by that point, I couldn't even bear to watch it anymore because I was so frustrated and I was so annoyed. I just figured I'll just let it do whatever it's doing, and hopefully at the end of this, maybe that little teaspoon of water that it tossed in is enough to wash my clothes. I don't know. I just couldn't bear to watch it anymore, and I just sat down and waited for it to finish. And the whole experience there was just so unpleasant. The place was dirty, the place was crowded, it was hot because it's open to the air. And inside there, they do have a sink. There's a sink there where, with cold water, you can wash your hands and things. And of course, the homeless community of Chinatown, they know every business where they can go in. And if there is a place that is open to the public and it has a sink with running water, of course, they're going to know about it and they're going to take advantage of it. And then a steady stream from the homeless community came in there to go to the sink and wash up and do whatever it is they want to do. I'm sure they probably wash their clothes in the sink from time to time, you know, and during off hours or something like that. But not, you know, I don't want to make this sound like an essay against the homeless, but, you know, they didn't have the best aroma about them. It was just one more thing to the experience of going to this laundromat, to have the flow of the homeless coming in. And they were leaving garbage around. They had all their bags with them, and the bags smelled to high heaven. I think they had rotting food in the bags, and I think a lot of this place had garbage strewn around, and that probably comes from the homeless just sort of throwing their garbage in there, or people doing their laundry and they just toss their garbage on the floor. A very unpleasant experience. And I ended up thinking about something I think about a lot, and that is, I think about business owners, because I've often thought about, like, business owners must be really special people. You hear so much about how much hard work it is to run your own business. And I always think that only really intelligent, hardworking, smart people would be able to run their own business. Because I didn't grow up in an environment where anybody had their own business. I have no experience with money, with businesses in general. And I always thought, like, even running a business would be something that would be completely beyond me. But over and over and over, I run into businesses like this laundromat that are so poorly run, and there's nobody there. I mean, it's just left to fall apart. None of them, like half the machines are broken, the other ones aren't working, they don't add any water. All my clothing that came out, some of them had like stains on them, you know, dirt stains and things from the time I've been wearing this clothing. All of the stains are still on my clothing. None of it got washed out because there just isn't enough water in the wash cycle. Nothing basically happened. I put my clothing in this machine, it rolled around a little bit, and then I took it home, and I guess I washed my clothes. And yet, even though this business is horrible, unpleasant, poorly run, full of poorly maintained machines, does a terrible job at washing your clothes, we as consumers are so dumb that we flock to this place. I mean, this place was jammed with people. It probably runs 24 hours a day with people washing their clothes. And whoever owns that business is probably sitting at home just laughing it up, making tons of money off this place for doing absolutely nothing and running a really poor business. It seems to me a business this poor should go out of business. It should go bankrupt. And yet I encounter so many businesses that are run poorly. Staff are discourteous. The experience of going there as a customer is awful. And yet they stay in business, and apparently they make tons of money because there are so many rich people in the world who run businesses. And I think sometimes I think the world is divided into those two groups. People who are dumb, like me, who don't start their own business because they don't think they're capable of running one. And then the people who know the secret that it doesn't matter, just run a business, and people are so dumb, no matter how badly you run your business, customers will flock there and you will get rich. And that's how life goes. Anyway, I'm just babbling. But it just bothers me now that I went to this place and I spent so much time there, so much energy, spent my money, and I still walked out with dirty clothes. And when I come back here in 1 or 2 months to Kuala Lumpur, that laundromat is still going to be operating, still going to be making money hand over fist. Nothing will have changed, So we as consumers, we have to get our act together and quit going to these businesses that offer poor service, Anyway, I will never go back there again. That I can guarantee you. But at the same time, the other side of the coin are the customers. And from that point of view, I have some sympathy for the business owners, because I was talking about all the people staying up here on my floor who are door slammers, And that just seems to be a big part of the life of so many people. They just grow up slamming doors, and that's just how they live, and they never think anything about it. And at this laundromat, the other customers were a really rough crowd. Smokers, for one thing. Everybody was smoking, so the whole place there at the laundromat was filled with smoke. And they just seemed like a rough crowd, on their phones, screaming into their phones, yelling at the tops of their lungs, annoying all the people around them because they're speaking so loudly. And when they go up to the laundromat, like to the washing machine and the dryer, and when they're putting their clothes in and they go to close the door, they just hit it with all their strength. They slam that door as if they're trying to break it. And as a business owner, I would be annoyed with the customers. It's like, come on, treat this place with some respect. You don't need to slam the door of the dryer that hard in order to get it closed. I always, close it quite gently, and then I give it a little push at the end. Like I push it and get it to click. It's not the kind of door that you need to slam. It's not designed to be closed that way. It's something you're supposed to push closed. And yet all these customers were like slamming it as hard as they can. So they annoyed me too. The business owner annoys me, and the customers annoyed me. And I will not go back there again. If I am back in Kuala Lumpur and I need to do laundry, I will track down someplace out in the suburbs, a nice, gentle, clean place where the people are nice and the environment is friendly. Yeah, Chinatown has changed. It feels very different from the last time that I stayed here. It feels much rougher, much tougher place than I remember it being. A very unpleasant district, I find. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just not in the mood for it anymore. Maybe it was exactly the same before, and for whatever reason, I didn't mind it, or I didn't notice it back then. Who knows? And the other side of this conclusion, I was talking about how I was in contact with the ferry company Indomall Fast Ferry in Malacca, trying to find out about the schedule and how I can buy a ticket and reserve a seat. And I got this idea that I should either go to Malacca early, or no, go there late. I was planning on going early and being a tourist in Malacca for a few days. That's out the window. I don't have the time to do that. So maybe I can go to Malacca later, spend more days here to give me more time to get ready. Or I could even go to Port Dickson. So I sent a message via WhatsApp about Port Dickson. So I says, okay, the schedule you sent me has ferries leaving from Port Dickson. Is that schedule accurate? Like, when do the ferries leave from Port Dickson? And can I book a ticket the same way that you described, to book it that you already told me? And they got back to me, so that's amazing. I'm amazed that Indomall is actually communicating with me, so I'm very happy about that. Good customer service. But they did say, oh, we have nothing to do with Port Dickson. You are dealing with the Malacca office right now. This WhatsApp number is for Indomall Malacca Dumai. And if you want to find out about Port Dickson, you have to call another number. And they gave me a phone number to call. And I was like, oh, no. I worked so hard to finally get a WhatsApp number for Indomall. And now I'm like, if I want to go through Port Dickson, like, I'm starting all the way from the beginning again with some random phone number. And I'm terrible with phone calls. I'll call that number and try to get information, and I won't understand them, and they won't understand me, and we're going to go around in circles. That's why I was so happy to get a WhatsApp number for Indomall. Then, we can communicate just by sending messages. And they sent me voice messages, which was kind of interesting. But at least then I don't have to worry about not being able to hear them on the phone, or to understand what they're saying, things like that. But now I'm back at square one, way back at the beginning, with just some random phone number, and I'm going to have to call them and ask them questions. I'm going to have to, I'll do that this afternoon, but I'm going to have to take a breath and relax and get my energy together to face another phone call. Yeah, I'm just not good with phone calls. Yeah, my room looks pretty funny right now because I quite often don't dry my laundry. All I do is I go there and I wash it, and then I take it back wet. It's just damp when it comes out of the washing machine anyway. And then I often string up my own laundry line so I can hang things to dry them inside the room. Or I just put things on hangers and stuff like that. And yeah, I end up looking like I'm living in some kind of, I don't know, some sort of a tent or something, because I've got my own sleeping sheets. I have my own bed sheets that I travel with, and pillowcases and things like that. And then you have to find places to hang those, and I often drape them over the curtains, and my whole room ends up with shirts and underwear and pants and sheets, draped all over the place. And it often works out well with the bike, because my bike is inside my room right now. You can't even see the bike at the moment because, of course, it's a very convenient laundry rack. So I have all of my wet laundry just draped over my bike everywhere to dry. And I've got everything else hung up here, everything else hung up in the bathroom. Everything is drying out now inside the room. So that makes it nice to have an air conditioner, because the air conditioner actually, dehumidifies the air as well and kind of moves the drying process along. But yeah, this room, to be honest, when the day started, it looked pretty good, because I make it sound like everything is a complete disaster, but I am making progress, and things are fairly organized around here in terms of what's going on and getting my bike ready and getting my camera gear ready. It is a little bit more organized than I let on, perhaps, in telling my stories. So it didn't look that bad this morning relative to how I was talking about it. But now, now it's back to being looks like some kind of a weird place, just covered, like a clothing bomb went off, there's like clothing draped everywhere. Oh, one last point. I was talking to the boss here at the Kojoy Hotel down at the front desk, because I was curious about all the people staying up here on my floor. I was going to go talk to them and ask them, I'm curious, where are you guys from and what are you doing in Malaysia? But they are always on their phone. Like, they are never, ever off their phone. Like, even when they're sitting out in the hallway having their hallway party, they're either like talking loudly to each other, and I don't want to interrupt that conversation, or they're on the phone, walking up and down the hallway, walking up and down the stairs, going in and out of the rooms. But the phones are like glued to their ears. So there's never a chance to break in at any point and say, excuse me, I want to introduce myself, who I am, who are you, and find out anything about them. So I haven't been able to start up any kind of a conversation. So I was just curious whether the boss here, the manager, knew about them. And he says, yeah, they're from Nepal, which is interesting. I never would have guessed Nepal, but that's where they're from. And he said he thinks they're in town for a martial arts tournament, probably karate. And that makes sense, and it surprises me. It makes sense because the other day, as I was walking around Chinatown running some errands, I saw all these guys, actually young boys, walking by with these huge backpacks on that were covered in logos from like a World Karate Federation or something like that. So they looked like they were in town for a tournament of some kind. So the fact that he says, oh, these guys are here for a karate tournament, it's like, oh, okay. Makes sense, because I've seen people with clothing and gear, from a karate tournament. But it also doesn't make sense because they don't strike me as athletes. As I said, being up until 3 in the morning, never going to sleep, smoking like crazy. That doesn't seem like the lifestyle of a mixed martial artist, like a professional athlete. Maybe they're coaches or assistants to the athletes. I don't really know. But anyway, chances are they are from Nepal, and they're in town for a week or so for a karate tournament. So that's kind of interesting. All right. And that's my conclusion. I really have to get started with the rest of my day. And start organizing now that my laundry is partially done. Though, to be honest, all of my clothing looks just as dirty as when I started. I feel like I still have to go to another laundromat and wash them all over again with a machine that actually uses water. Yeah, I guess that's the last thought I had, which is kind of why I wanted to do this conclusion, that when you don't have a stable home, like if you're moving from place to place, even a little bit. I mean, I've had a lot of stability recently because I was in Mesot for a long time. And I'm here in Kuala Lumpur for a long time, but I don't really have a home per se. So what happens in that situation is you never have a chance to track down the good places. Like, you often end up at terrible places. Like, if you live somewhere, like, well, you live in your hometown, you probably, in Canada anyway, you have your own washing machine, your own dryer. So it's never an issue. You never have to go to these horrible laundromats. They're just not part of your life. You just do laundry in your house, and that is such a nice experience by comparison. But even if you do have a home and you're living somewhere and you go to laundromats, over time, you find one that you like. You find one that works well, is a pleasant experience. You basically frequent a business that you find and you approve of. This horrible place that I went, you wouldn't go back there. Over time, you would eventually find a laundromat you like. You would find the coffee shop you like. You would find the restaurant you like. You basically build a life built up of all these places that you like. The movie theater that you like. You try all the movie theaters. You hate that one. You hate that one. You hate that one. This one, it's a good movie theater. So you end up with a selection of good businesses that offer good service and are pleasant to go to. But when you're moving around a lot, you sort of take it on the chin all the time. And you end up at these horrible places because you just don't know any better. This is the laundromat in my neighborhood. It's the nearest one to me, so that's the one I ended up going to, and it's a horrible place, and I'll never go back there again. But that's just sort of what happens. If you're moving a lot from place to place, you don't have the opportunity, you don't have enough time to really track down the good places. And more often than not, you end up at the bad places because, as well, travelers, like backpackers, will congregate in one part of the city, and then services will spring up for that population. So this laundromat, has stayed in business because there are so many backpackers that generally stay in the Chinatown area, as well as all the migrant workers that I've seen here as well. And that is their not their population. What's the word I'm looking for? Those are their customers. And it's just a terrible laundromat because we as backpackers or travelers, we don't know any better. Most of the people that I saw there today, they're going to do laundry there one time. They're here on a trip. They need to do laundry. They go to the laundromat and they do it. And they're not going to be repeat customers anyway. So this laundromat can afford to give really terrible service because they're not worried about repeat customers. You go in there and you try it once and you never go back again, but they don't care about that because you weren't going to come back anyway. You're just passing through town. And I think when you're a backpacker or a traveler, you end up encountering a lot of these businesses just because that's the way your life goes. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, that is it. That is truly it. And shutting down my camera, and I'll see you in the next video.